A tattoo can survive years of showers, sunlight, sweating, and even the constant renewal of your skin. But here's the strange part. Your skin is constantly replacing itself. So why doesn't your tattoo disappear with it? What keeps that ink in your body for years, sometimes for an entire lifetime? The answer involves a microscopic process happening beneath the surface. And it's more complicated than simply putting ink deep enough into your skin. Let's find out how tattoo ink stays under your skin right here on History of Simple Things. When people say tattoo ink is under the skin, it sounds like the ink is sitting in a little pocket beneath the surface. That's not really what's happening. Your skin has several layers, but two are especially important here: the epidermis and the dermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer. It's constantly renewing itself. Older skin cells gradually move toward the surface, where they eventually die and are shed. If tattoo ink were deposited only in this outer layer, the tattoo wouldn't last very long. The pigment would gradually disappear as those skin cells were replaced. That's why tattoo needles need to reach deeper. Beneath the epidermis is the dermis, a thicker layer containing blood vessels, nerves, hair follicles, connective tissue, and other structures. This layer is much more stable than the epidermis, making it the ideal place for tattoo pigment to remain. But getting the ink there is only the beginning of the story. A tattoo machine moves a needle rapidly up and down, puncturing the skin repeatedly. With every puncture, a small amount of pigment is deposited into the dermis. The process is essentially creating thousands of tiny openings and placing pigment inside them. That's why getting a tattoo causes redness, swelling, and irritation afterward. Your body recognizes that the skin has been injured, and your immune system immediately responds. This is where things get surprisingly interesting, because your body doesn't understand that you deliberately wanted a tattoo. As far as your immune system is concerned, there's a foreign substance sitting inside damaged tissue, so it sends in some of its cleanup crew. Among the cells that respond are macrophages. Macrophages are immune cells that can engulf and digest foreign material, damaged cells, and cellular debris. When they encounter tattoo pigment, they can swallow the particles. At first, this sounds like your body should simply remove the tattoo. But there's a problem. Tattoo pigments are made up of particles that can be difficult for the body to completely break down and eliminate. So the macrophages essentially become tiny containers holding the pigment, and this is one of the biggest reasons a tattoo can last. The pigment isn't simply sitting loose in the skin. A significant amount becomes associated with cells in the dermis, including pigment-containing macrophages. But there's an even stranger part. A macrophage doesn't live forever. Eventually, a pigment-filled macrophage can die. You might expect that to be the end of that particular pigment. But the pigment can be released back into the surrounding tissue, where other immune cells can encounter it and engulf it again. So another macrophage comes along and captures the pigment. This creates a kind of cellular cycle. This also explains why taking a shower doesn't make your tattoo fade away. The water you're washing with only reaches the surface of your skin. Tattoo pigment is deposited much deeper, inside the dermal tissue. Even sweating doesn't flush it out. The ink isn't sitting on top of the skin like paint. It's embedded within living tissue. And because the dermis isn't continuously shed the way the epidermis is, the pigment can remain there for a very long time. This is the crucial difference between a temporary mark and a tattoo. A temporary mark is sitting on or near the surface. A tattoo has been placed inside a much more stable layer. If tattoo ink stays in the dermis, why do old tattoos sometimes look faded? Because permanent doesn't mean completely unchanged. Over time, some pigment can be broken down or removed by the body's natural processes. Sunlight can also contribute to fading because ultraviolet radiation can affect certain pigments. Your skin itself is changing too. As you age, your skin gradually loses some of its elasticity and changes in texture. Wrinkles, stretching, and other changes can make a tattoo look softer or less sharply defined. The pigment can also undergo subtle changes in its distribution within the tissue. That's why a tattoo that looked extremely crisp when it was fresh may look slightly different years later. The tattoo is still there, it's simply aging along with you. Now there's an obvious question. If the body can't easily remove tattoo ink on its own, how can a laser get rid of it? The basic idea is to make the pigment easier for the body to remove. Tattoo removal lasers deliver extremely short pulses of intense light into the tattoo. The energy is absorbed by the pigment and can break larger pigment particles into much smaller fragments. Once those particles are sufficiently fragmented, the body's natural cleanup systems have a better chance of processing and removing them. But this takes time. That's why tattoo removal generally requires multiple sessions rather than one quick treatment. Different pigments can also respond differently to laser treatment because they absorb light differently. So even when a laser is used, your body still plays a major role in getting rid of the tattoo. So, how does tattoo ink stay under your skin? The needle deposits pigment into the dermis, beneath the constantly renewing outer layer of skin. Immune cells then attempt to remove the foreign pigment, but many particles are too persistent to be eliminated completely. Pigment can remain within the dermal tissue and inside cells such as macrophages, with new immune cells continuing to capture pigment when older cells die. That's why a tattoo can remain visible for decades. It isn't because the ink is sitting untouched beneath your skin. It's because the ink has become part of a long-running interaction between pigment, skin, and your immune system. And that's what makes a tattoo so fascinating. What looks like a simple drawing on the surface is actually the visible result of a microscopic process happening inside your body. A permanent tattoo isn't really a picture that your body ignores. It's a picture your body keeps trying to clean up, and somehow the picture survives. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.